Everyone, please Google Gavin Grimm. He's going to the Supreme Court in March. Hashtag stand with Gavin.
That was the voice of our next guest. A lot of folks first met her on Orange is the New Black. She became the first openly transgender person to be nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award. Has gone on to do excellent work ever since being in the front lines. And I really admire her for what she's done with her career and what she's done in today's society and how she's helped a lot of us to open our minds and come to a better understanding about what it means to fight for equality. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we all want is equality. She's here with us today, and I got to tell you an interesting story. Please welcome Laverne Cox. Here's the elephant in the room.
Oh, okay.
Okay. There was a moment that you and I shared, and I didn't get a chance to apologize to you about this.
Okay.
I was hanging out at my my mainstay in Lower Manhattan called the Soho House.
You know what? Candy Crush.
And I was upstairs, and this is when Orange is the New Black first came on, and I was with someone, and I said, I think that's the woman from Orange is the New Black, Laverne Cox. And we were going back and forth. I was like, well, why would she be here in New York City? Oh, maybe, let me Google. And I start Googling. And I was like, yo, this is her, Laverne Cox. And then you walk by, and I introduced myself. And I said, hey, Laverne, I'm Sway. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. And the first thing you did is looked at my phone and said, oh, look at you, you're Googling me.
Oh, shit.
Oh, my God. I so don't remember this. How do I not remember this? I've been watching you on TV forever. So I don't remember this, though.
Yeah. And I was
I would call you out, though.
No, you definitely called me out. I was like, I was very embarrassed for them.
That sounds like something I would do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you said, I know who you are, Sway, and then you got out of there. And that was a moment for me. But welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
We'll play back the Grammy clip one more time. I want to ask you a question about this.
Everyone, please Google Gavin Grimm. He's going to the Supreme Court in March. Hashtag stand with Gavin.
Who's Gavin Grimm?
Gavin Grimm is a 17-year-old young man from Gloucester, Virginia, and he sued the the Board of Education in his county a few years ago so he could use the bathroom like all the other boys in his school. Gavin is transgender. He transitioned from female to male a few years ago, and once he transitioned, he called the school, said, I'm going to come to school as a boy, and they were like, okay, and initially he said he was using a bathroom, like a nurse's bathroom, which is a way to get there. And he was like, this is a lot. Can I just use the boys' bathroom? And they're like, yeah. And for 7 weeks, he used the boys' bathroom with no incident. No one had any issues. And some parents found out about it and called a special, session of the school board. And they decided that he could not use the boys' bathroom. And he sued. And he won his case on appeal. And the Supreme Court stayed the decision. And now the Supreme Court will hear the case of Gavin Grimm, and it will decide whether trans people are covered under Title IX, which bans discrimination based on sex in our educational institutions. And it is the first time that the Supreme Court is hearing a case about transgender rights. So it is really important. And I thought, people aren't talking about this case enough.
Yeah.
And I had this opportunity at the Grammys to reach, I think, 25 million people were watching. And so I didn't tell anyone I was going to mention Gavin because I didn't want anyone telling me I couldn't do it. So I just slipped it in. And Gavin was hashtag Stand with Gavin was trending on Twitter that night. His Google search spiked like over 100%, and so people are talking about Gavin in this case now. And what's at stake? There have been. There's a lot of controversy last year about North Carolina's anti-trans bathroom bill, and last year over 50 states introduced anti-transgender bathroom bills, which basically criminalized trans people using the bathroom. And basically criminalizes me using the women's room. And do you really want me in the men's room, Sway? Like, really?
No, I'm gonna pass on that one.
Really, and so these bathroom bills are really not about bathrooms. They're about whether or not we want transgender people have the right to exist in public space. Because if we can't use public bathrooms, we can't go to school, we can't work, we can't access healthcare facilities. So this is about public accommodations, the same way that all civil rights legislation is about public accommodations.
When you were in high school, you didn't even have a voice. There was no voice was speaking on your behalf like you are for Gavin.
No, no. I had heard about transgender people, and I was in sort of denial about my own sort of gender identity because of internalized shame and stuff. So no, there was no folks on television who were trans that I could look to. But could you imagine being 17 years old? Think back to when you were 17 and having to fight for your rights and going to the Supreme Court. And if you hear Gavin, he's so articulate and so strangely calm, and he's just like, I just want to be treated like all the other boys at my school. We don't want special rights. I can't. When I was hearing it, but when I was watching Hidden Figures, I couldn't help but think about Gavin. You know that moment in Hidden Figures when Taraji's character has to go 45 minutes each way to the colored bathroom because she was living during Jim Crow, and she was also working to launch the first man into space. And I couldn't help but think about Gavin having to walk out of his way to go to the bathroom, a very basic thing. So there's a correlation between the struggles that Black folks have had around bathrooms and civil rights and what trans folks are experiencing right now.
Laverne Cox is here, ladies and gentlemen. Who was the first person that you were able to confide in and that kind of helped give you some balance in dealing with what you were going through as a youth?
So, my story, if I have to tell this part of it, when I was in third grade, my third grade teacher, Miss Ridgway, called my mother on the phone and said, your son is going to end up in New Orleans wearing a dress if we don't get him into therapy right away. That was me. Okay. And so I had all of this. I went to the therapist and I internalized all this shame around wearing a dress and being very feminine. And so I was in such intense denial. Although when I went to an arts high school, started wearing girls' clothes in high school, although not dresses or skirts, because I didn't want to end up in New Orleans wearing a dress, because I thought that would mean I would be this sort of homeless street person. And I was a straight A student. I won public speaking contest. I was, winning talent contests. I was very sort of this overachiever kid who also happened to be very feminine. And so it wasn't until I moved to New York and met transgender people, and I had all these misconceptions about who trans people were based on what I'd seen in the media, based on the fear of God that was put in me by Miss Ridgway and my mother. And then I moved here and met real trans people, and all the misconceptions I had about who transgender people were melted away, and I was able to accept them, and that's what allowed me to accept myself. So it was several trans people that I met in New York City. I talk about Tina Sparkles a lot, who's this trans woman back in the day. She was a club sort of personality here. I watched her transition. She was beautiful, fierce, Black trans woman who's living abroad now, and I think she's living stealth now. But she was a huge inspiration. But there was a lot of amazing trans women back in the day in the club scene here in New York City who influenced me, and the reason I'm here today.
Laverne Cox. I mean, I could go on and on. We could talk for hours. Like, I want to know about your, even like when you got comfortable enough in yourself where you wanted to share with someone else and find love, like your first date. How was that?
Oh gosh, I was always dating. Well, I was always dating even before. So before I medically transitioned, I was, started dressing, and I started out in a very sort of androgynous, gender nonconforming space in high school and college, and then it just eventually I became more and more feminine and more womanly, and I was always dating. There was always a guy who seemed to want to talk to me. So dating was always, one of those things, and like it was so funny because when I first started the medical part of my transition, I just assumed, up until that point, I just assumed everyone knew that I was trans, and like there were a few moments I would meet a guy and I thought he knew, and then he didn't know, and so I was like, so I got this thing whenever I would meet a guy at the club or on the street, like. Well, for the beginning, I was like, I'm trans, right? And sometimes they'd be like, yeah, I know, it's cool. Other times, oh no, and then they would run away. Okay. And then I would text them. I would give them my number, and I would text them, because before, you want to just make sure they know before you're in any kind of situation. And so I would text guys, and sometimes they would know, and sometimes they wouldn't, and sometimes they would be like, I'm not into that. Sometimes they're like, you seem cool, let's go for it. So I've always, been meeting dudes and talking to dudes and being open about who I am. And I think there's a misconception that guys who are into trans women would never, straight guys would never openly or knowingly date someone trans. There's a lot of straight guys who are openly dating trans women, or at least sleeping with us, or trying to talk to us on the low. So that's been my experience and the experiences of a lot of my girlfriends. So excited about my new show, Doubt, that's premiering on CBS tomorrow night at 10 p.m.
I love the transition.
Because there's a love story on the show. If you have to watch tomorrow night and be caught up, because everybody's going to be talking about it, so you don't want to be behind. But I have this great love story, and the writers wanted to hear from me about my own dating experiences, and they've incorporated a lot of them into this love story. So it's really real, and I've never seen a story on television with the straight man knowingly dating a trans woman. It's never happened, and I've lived that. My girlfriends are living it, and we need to see that. And the men who are attracted to us, there are a lot of straight guys who find themselves attracted to trans women. They're so deeply stigmatized. They need to see that story, so they need to tune in and see what's going on.
You're playing the character Cameron Worth?
Yes, her name is Cameron Worth. She's an attorney at this a defense attorney at Roth and Associates, which is this law firm that defends this high-profile cases. Elliot Gould plays my boss. He plays Isaiah Roth, and I think of Elliot Gould if Bernie Sanders had a law firm. If he would started a defense firm, he'd probably be a little bit of like Roth and Associates. Elliot Gould is this dude who would go to jail for his clients. He was, a protester from the 60s, and he's a super liberal dude who believes everyone deserves a robust defense no matter what they're accused of, and that the system is rigged against people once they're involved in it, and we have to fight that system. And so it's so much fun playing this really smart attorney who's deeply compassionate about her clients and about justice.
Laverne Cox, she's talking about Doubt, premiering tomorrow at 10 p.m. on CBS. We're going to go into a song, and I want to open up the phone lines for our listeners, the citizens of Sway in the Morning. Who you listening to right now?
Like musically?
Yeah.
Always Beyonce.
Beyonce? You met Beyonce?
I met Beyonce
What'd she
at the
say to you?
Grammys. So first of all, I saw her and I looked over and she saw me, her face lit up and she stood up for me. She was pregnant and she said, "I love you so much." And I said, "I love you so much." And she gave me a big hug and she talked about my lip sync battle performance. She was like, "That was amazing. I did Destiny's Child on lip sync battle last year." She sent me flowers actually afterwards, which was amazing. I was in shock. And she's been hearing from her people and I've met her publicist and I know Ty, her stylist, and she hears from them that I'm obsessed. And I'm always dancing at the concerts. I dressed like Beyonce for Cosmo magazine last year. Like it goes deep and it goes long. And I got to meet her and it was everything.
So like you working for a video cameo or something. Maybe you'll be in the next Lemonade.
I was actually, I haven't told anybody. I'll give you an exclusive. Actually, Miss Tina contacted me about their initial concept. I hope that she's okay with me saying this. The initial concept of Sorry from Lemonade. They wanted to have all these powerful, empowered Black women in the video, and they wanted to have like me and Viola and Carrie and all these other women, and I was shooting Rocky Horror Picture Show at the time, and they were like, "Can you, get the DP to like shoot something and then send it to us?" And there was just no time to do it, so they had actually approached me about being Lemonade,
you
but
blew
it
that
didn't
one.
happen. It was the concept changed, and I mean, could you imagine anyone else? I mean, there's Serena Williams like giving us full life. It was perfect. Things happened the way they were supposed to. I believe that, and it's all good.
Well, we got it. Well, actually, before we go to this song, DB got a gift for you, especially for you, Laverne. Yeah.
I decided I was going to give you a copy of Metallica CD. It is my favorite band, and you will love the music. Trust me.
I know Metallica, so this is the thing. People think that I do not know Metallica. Is this the Black Album?
Yes, it is.
I know. I had the Black Album back in the day. Exit Light, Enter Night, Take My Hand. Off to Never Neverland.
Enter Sandman.
Yes. Nice. and Nothing Else Matters. I actually know the music. It was on the teleprompter and I was in a moment and I thought I said them until afterwards, and they're like, "Did you say Metallica?" I'm like, "Of course I did," and I thought I did. It was just a mistake. I love Metallica. I love metal, and I got into heavy metal actually because a lot of the boys I was interested in back in the day were into metal, and so this. Pantera, and like a dude I was into Drop Dead. Do you know Drop Dead? They're like a death metal band.
I'm impressed.
Oh yeah. I love heavy metal. So it was not me dissing them at all. I love Metallica. I'm so sorry. I apologized to them on Twitter and to all the fans because I think they felt like it was
a slight towards them.
It was not. It was just a mistake, and I'm human.
Yes.
But I love heavy metal, honey. Let's go. Let's do it.
Laverne Cox is here. 888-742-3345. You want to talk to her? Give us a call. We're dedicating this to Laverne. Hey.
In this city who don't have a preconceived idea about this guy.
That's a clip from Doubt, a new series premiering tomorrow at 10 p.m. on CBS. That's Laverne Cox playing the role of an Ivy League graduate who fights passionately for her clients since she's experienced injustice firsthand by the name of Cameron Worth. Laverne Cox is here.
Woo! Laverne, how did
Hello.
you choose your name?
That's a great question. Laverne was actually my middle name before I transitioned. So I was my old first name, and then Laverne, and Cox was always my last name. My mother's Gloria Cox. My grandmother's Emma Cox. And so Laverne Cox was my middle and last name. So I just dropped my old first name.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
That's
Yeah,
dope.
it's really, it is perfect. Yeah.
I've loved you since I first saw you. I feel like you're so gangster, so beautiful. Transparency is always high. Advocacy is always high. And I'm happy that you're here because
Thank you.
we have a lot of conversations about the LGBTQ community.
I know.
And I feel like you are the perfect bridge from someone who is in complete confusion to helping them understand. So I'm wondering if it's cool with you if I rattle off some frequent questions that I hear.
Okay, let's see how we do.
Okay. So
I'm like, what's this gonna be? I'm a little nervous.
Sip tea.
I'm a little nervous. I'm sipping tea. It's green tea, and we might need to keep sipping.
Well, first question is, do you always show off the girls like that during your interviews?
Actually, no, I don't. We've been pretty covered up, and I thought we usually are pretty covered up. So
Okay.
it just like we liked this outfit, and we thought it was okay for not
Yeah,
too
no
revealing.
complaints. No complaints.
Just a light
Yeah.
question first.
yeah. So for like one-on-one.
It's good to know you're looking.
Well, I can't help it. It's all up to the-
Ow. What is the difference between... Damn it, Sway. What is the difference between transgender and transsexual?
So, historically, there's some debate in the LGBT community about this, but historically, transsexual is more of a medical distinction. It just notes that someone has medically transitioned, and transgender is more of an umbrella term that incorporates folks who are on the gender spectrum, people who are non-binary, people who might even be cross-dressers or drag queens. It's an umbrella term, but a lot of trans people who have medically transitioned also don't like to be lumped in with people who might be a cross-dresser or someone who's a drag queen. I don't mind that. I think it's all... I think we're all human beings, but those are the basic distinctions. Transsexual is a medical distinction. Transgender is more of an umbrella term for anyone who's gender nonconforming.
Okay, got you.
Got it.
Appreciated that.
Yeah.
All right. When Caitlyn Jenner officially introduced herself
Yes.
into the world, there were a lot of conversations about what determines a full transition. Like,
Yes.
is a sex organ change necessary to say you've transitioned?
No, it's not. And I think in so much of the conversation I've been having since I've had the platform I've had is really trying to take conversations about trans people away from transition, away from surgery, away from body parts. Because I think those conversations necessarily objectify trans people, reduce us to our bodies. Certainly our bodies matter. The medical interventions I've had have been crucial to my own sense of being self-actualized. But I feel like a lot of that is private. I think that information is crucial for other trans people to know when transitioning. But if you're not trans or if you're not sleeping with somebody trans, you don't need to know the details of their medical transition. You don't need to know what's between their legs. All you need to know is how they identify, what pronouns they want to use to refer to them, and respect that. That's all you need to know.
Okay. And then finally, what's the difference between sexual orientation and gender identity?
Oh, that's a great question.
It's a huge question because there's still a conflation. I mean, I've been doing a college lecture tour where I talk about this all the time. Sexual orientation is who you're attracted to in terms of being gay, straight, or bi, and gender identity is how you identify in terms of being male, female, both, neither. It's all good. And so the conflation, I've written about this and talked at length about the conflation between sexual orientation and gender identity comes from... Stay with me, people.
Okay.
It comes from the patriarchal mindset, patriarchal imagination about around someone taking their masculinity away. So historically, if in the patriarchal imagination, if someone slept with another dude, that made him less of a man. If a man wore a dress or wanted to be feminine, that made him less of a man. So in that imagination, these two things are conflated because it's really about someone being less of a man or less masculine. So in the patriarchal imagination, these two things are linked, but in reality, in our lived experiences, they're very different.
Right.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
Laverne Cox, thank you for that. Okay. Everything we wanted to know.
Professor Cox.
Layla, we got only a few minutes, so I'm going to try to take quick calls or quick answers. Layla from Houston, go ahead.
Layla.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Hey, what's up, Layla?
So I just want to say, Laverne, you're bringing so much to the table. The more we push for other people's rights, the more our own rights
Yes, ma'am.
are, taken up to another level and respected. And I just want to thank you because I definitely learned a lot. And every time I listen to y'all, I learn something or I laugh. So that's great. So happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you, man. Well, yeah, you're a citizen.
It's Sway in the morning.
All right, Shayla from Denver. Go ahead. Say hello to Laverne
Shayla.
Cox.
Hi.
Hey. Hey.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I just wanted to ask Laverne, first of all, thank you for the trans list and for what you've done, giving voice and giving image and compassion where we need to be as a society. So thank you for that. I wanted to know if you find yourself getting support from other actresses, in your community, in your artist community. Do you find yourself going up against, like, Kerry Washington for roles, or, kind of how are you navigating that space as a working artist?
Thank you for that question. I have gotten such incredible support. It's funny that you mentioned Kerry Washington because I saw literally for 3 weeks in a row I was running into Kerry. I ran into her at the Women's March and then at the EW and then at the SAG Awards after party, and we had a lovely, amazing conversation with her and her manager. And then I saw her the next week and we sat with each other at the Producers Guild of America Awards. I love Kerry Washington. She's an amazing LGBT advocate, and she's just a dope chick that I've gotten to know personally, who's been unbelievably supportive. It's been a lot of love. The wonderful thing about working with artists and actors is that we generally tend to be very open-minded, creative people, and it's been kind of a love fest, to be perfectly honest. There's a lot, and I think that scarcity model, we need to get rid of that with actresses and in the world in general. That I think if we can, there's an idea that there's not enough to go around, so we have to, scrounge for resources and we have to push the other person down because there's not enough. There is enough to go around. There's enough shine to go around. There are enough resources to go around so we can lift each other up. Speaking of which, shout out to Amaya Scott, who is turning it out on Star. We have to lift each other up as women, as trans people, and as Americans.
Laverne Cox. Hey, Shayla, thanks for that call. One last caller from Tennessee is Lauren. Go ahead, Lauren.
Hey, Lauren.
Hi, Laverne. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm so happy that I'm talking to you.
Hey.
I just wanted to ask you a question. So, at one point, I was actually dating a trans man, and one problem that he was going through was that, he was trying to be active in the LGBT community, but he didn't really feel like he was always accepted by lesbian and gay individuals. So I just didn't know if that was something that you had struggled with yourself.
I can't say that's been my personal struggle, but it's certainly been an issue for a lot of trans folks I know. And I think for many, many, many years, for decades, the T in LGBT has been an afterthought. We've been told many times when it was trans and gender nonconforming people who started the Stonewall riots in 1969, we were told for decades that, wait your turn, we got to get rights for gay and lesbian people and then we'll get to you. And so now we're finally kind of starting to get around to trans folks. And so it's been a struggle. And then the racism that we often also experience in the LGBT community, just because someone's gay and lesbian does not mean that they have unlearned their internalized transphobia or internalized sexism or internalized racism. We all live in a world where I internalize transphobia and racism. We all are socialized in the same world. So there's a space of needing to come to critical consciousness that all of us need to have, that as Black folks, as trans folks, and just as human beings, and white folks. So Yes, it is a huge issue. I think a lot of the folks in the LGBT community are getting better at understanding that we have to talk about race, that we have to talk about sexism, and of course we have to talk about transphobia. It's getting better, but those struggles are still real, and enough people are not interrogating their internalized isms. So we have a lot of work to do.
Laverne Cox, you have to come back on this show.
Yeah.
I would
not
love
enough
to.
time.
You
Not
speak
enough
so
time.
well.
Just
Thank you so
come
much.
back and hang out with us.
Absolutely,
okay?
I would love to.
All right, I appreciate you, and I appreciate your work, and I appreciate you bringing a lot of light to us. You know, it's been in the past few years, we've been having this open conversation of understanding and communication, and like Tracy said, you're a great bridge to that. So I appreciate you. Absolutely. She used to watch me on TRL.
I heard.
You heard that?
Yeah, I heard that, Sway.
Laverne, you're a citizen.
It's Sway in the morning.
Okay, there it is, Laverne Cox.
Thank you.
All right.
It's Sway in the morning, only on Shade 45. Kilo.